You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Mokwanda. It is 8 minutes past 11, and shukran for joining me. So, although mental health care has improved significantly over the last decades, many people still choose not to seek treatment or quit prematurely. A number of possible factors contribute to these disparities, with stigma being perhaps the most significant. Stigma hurts individuals with mental illness and their communities. And to shed some light on this topic, especially with mental health within the Muslim community and the myths around belief and patience, we have Amina Mohamed, life coach, a trauma debriefer, and volunteer for victim support, and Zaid Ismail, self published author, life coach, and veteran blogger who focuses on human conditions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to the both of you, and shukran for joining me.
Wa alaikum
Waalaikum.
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right, so I recently watched a video that was shared on YouTube about the platform that you guys have introduced. And I loved the way you all introduced yourselves there. So please, can you introduce yourselves the same way that you did on that video? We'll start with you, Amina.
Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. It's wonderful to be here. So yes, I'm a life coach. I'm passionate about women's empowerment, about women's upliftment. I'm a trauma debriefer. And most importantly for me, I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I'm a daughter. And I just know that my purpose in life is meaningful connection and creating spaces for women to actually realize and be who they want and can be.
Mm-hmm. All right, Zaid, what about yourself? Who are you?
So I'm an author. I've written a couple of books on mental health, or more importantly, the human condition. And I've also written a novel discussing, or at least following the life of a typical Muslim Indian boy in South Africa, which is also focused on raising awareness of what is the real human experience in our community. I do life coaching as well. I've through an approach that I've developed myself. And more than that, I'm a single father of now one teenage daughter and one 20-year-old who's married. And along with Amina, we are very passionate about wanting to change the way we perceive not just mental health, but the roles that we play in our community so that we can understand why it is that we might be getting it wrong for all the right reasons.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, whenever we think or talk about mental health, the first thought that comes to mind is anxiety and depression. But there's more to mental health than just having anxiety or depression or one of these other mental conditions that are so common that we know of. So, let us start first by understanding what mental health is. So, what is mental health? Whoever would like to go first can start.
Zaid.
Okay, I'll take a dig at this one. One of the difficulties I think we've got with understanding mental health, or at least breaking the stigma around it, is because we keep talking about it as something that's separate from who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We keep talking about mental health as if it's something that we need to have in place so that we can be effective or functional in all the other roles and domains of our life. And that right there is part of the problem. One of the other problems we've got is that mental health is seen as something that requires therapy or counseling or coaching. And again, that's also not helpful because it automatically suggests that there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. And it's not that there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. What we need to start seeing mental health is seeking correct and informed advices so that we can get the right insights about what it is that we're struggling with. That's all it is. It's not about conditions that we're experiencing mentally or emotionally. It's about the human experience behind the life that we've been living and understanding why it is that life that we've been living has shaped us into being the person that we are today, and why it is that we might find it difficult to do the right thing when we know what the right thing to do is.
Amina?
Yeah, so Zaid and I differ on quite a few opinions, and you'll find that out in due course. And I don't know why it is that we work, but we do. So, yeah, I agree with almost everything he said, besides the fact that this, people seeing mental health as something that they need to see a therapist or a coach or somebody for. I almost kind of veer off from where he thinks, in that that's okay if you need to. What I definitely echo in terms of what Zaid said is that we tend to silo our mental health issues. If we're experiencing depression, if we're experiencing grief, loss, anxiety, it's almost now our life needs to come to a standstill, and then we must deal with that. What happens is we then compartmentalize that, put it aside, and then we must carry on being a mother, being a wife, being a dynamic woman, being a whatever. And it almost then is something that needs to be hushed at the side. And I'm almost in the space of bring it along with you. It's part of who you are. It's who you are. Don't see it as something that you need to deal with. When you have flu, right? You go to the doctor or you go to the pharmacy, you get something for your flu, but you carry on. You just have flu. You don't make the world stop, say, okay, look, I need to just deal with the flu. And then you must be a whole nother person when you're functioning. And this is mental health. And this is the stigma around it. The stigma around it has forced us to almost push it to the side. And, nobody must actually pay attention to it because it's really embarrassing. And people start questioning our iman and our ability to make sabr and all of those things. So we have to just kind of put a mask on and not show anybody that we're doing this. If you have a flu, if you have the flu, if you have a headache, if you have a tummy bug, you say to people, oh, sorry, my nose is a bit blocked today because I'm flu-y. Sorry, I'm feeling a bit off today because I'm actually going through depression, but, here I am. Deal with me.
Mm-hmm. I like the definitions that both of you gave, or rather, not the definitions, but a means of understanding, so that we can better understand what mental health is all about. Because I feel like we lack understanding, which is why it's always just the sabr talks. Have patience, no go read Quran, do dhikr, etc., etc. And that's not a quick fix for something like mental health. But what is the connection between mental health and Islam? Zaid?
Yeah, I just want to clarify one point quickly, and I'll answer your question for you, if I may. So when I said that we have this idea that we need to approach a counselor or a therapist or psychologist or whatever other mental health practitioner it is that we see out there, what I mean is that when we look at them, those roles, we should see them as advisors, not as someone that needs to fix something that's broken within us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but within the context of Islam, and I think Amina touched on some critically important points that there are themes that come up at every single discussion we have, is that the moment we start talking of mental health, people automatically associate it with Iman, and they're automatically associated with the fact that we are here to be trialed, we are here to be tested. And this persecution complex that we have as Muslims is not something that Islam imposes on us. It's something that we've taken from Islam because of our interpretation of what the purpose is of life in this world. So we automatically ignore or downplay the emphasis on how much of joy and comfort was experienced by the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba across the board. And we focus on the trials that they've been through and how they respond to the trials that they've been through. And something that came up recently about this exact same experience as Muslims is that we then look at the way the Prophet ﷺ responded to different challenges and trials in his life, and then we compare ourselves with our response rather than comparing ourselves with our understanding that he had in that moment. And we don't focus on the understanding part. We focus on whether or not we are responding correctly or not. And this fixation on whether we're right or wrong, correct or incorrect, halal, haram, that fixation has robbed us of the human experience and the human behind all of those behaviors that we might find are lacking at times.
Mm-hmm. Amina, I see you are nodding your head over there. What are your thoughts and opinions regarding the connection between Islam and mental health?
Yeah, so I'm definitely on the same wavelength as Zaid. Yes, the Quran and Islam teach us a lot about consequences of our actions and how we carry ourselves. And I think we always slant towards the negative. I know that I serve the most loving creator. I serve a Lord who wants nothing but for me to succeed in life. You know, and it's all about the frame of mind. And what's starting to happen, or what has been happening with mental health. And, I prefer to talk about mental health versus mental illness, because we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about obesity or we can talk about a healthy lifestyle. It just depends which way we slant it, right? If we talk about mental health, then we're putting ourselves in a healthy space. And in terms of Islam, it says, guard your thoughts, guard yourself. And that has a lot to do in playing in the space of mental health. If you, and that doesn't mean that depression doesn't exist. It does. I have been through it, so I know it's real, right? Um, but the thing is that it can't define me. And too often we use labels. Oh, she's depressive. She's got an anxiety order. She suffers from ADHD. We don't have to be suffering. We can just have the condition, deal with it, deal with it from an Islamic perspective, as well as deal with it from a human perspective. Zaid touched on a very important point where he said we concentrate too much on the actual diagnosis and we forget the human behind that. So automatically, when somebody comes to say to me, for example, make more dua, make more zikr, have a stronger iman, I must do that. But can somebody please just notice for that moment in time that I'm just busy being human and I perhaps just need some support and I am just going through something at the moment. And because we're so busy trying to diagnose and label, we actually forget that there's a human being who has roles and responsibilities in life and needs to carry on regardless of whether they're dealing with loss or grieving or have postnatal natal depression or anxiety or ADHD.
Mhm. Now, how best can we address the issue of mental health and mental illness, especially when we bring in our clergy and our religious scholars into play? Because I believe that they have a crucial role in helping our societies and our communities. Let's start with you, Amina.
I think for me, they play a very crucial role. And for the invitation here would be to just widen the horizon. When you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Okay, so if you're a hammer, all that you can do is knock a nail in. And I'm saying that you can use a hammer in various different ways. So yes, get that spiritual guidance, get that spiritual alignment from the leaders in our ummah. Okay, and at the same time our leaders to just expand and realize that there is more to this. Don't be like a horse with shutters and give me 50,000 dhikr to read and this dua and that dua, which are important. I am not negating their importance. I'm saying there needs to be more than that. Reach out, understand the human behind me, understand what drove to that, because there are probably societal issues, there are probably family issues, there are probably community issues that have contributed to me being in that certain space. So are we wanting to just treat the symptom, or are we actually wanting to treat the cause and say we can actually do better as a community?
Mhm. And Zaid, what are your thoughts regarding our clergy and religious people being part of, bettering our society in terms of mental health and mental illness?
I think my position on that is somewhat mixed.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, I'm very sympathetic to the pressure they're under to be those spiritual guides for the community. On the other hand, I am concerned about the fact that more often than not, the lack awareness of the fact that their spiritual training or their training in with regards to the Islamic sciences only gives them one perspective of the human experience. And I would encourage them, like the invitation that Amina just presented, I would encourage our leaders, our spiritual leaders in our communities, to expand their knowledge about what it is that makes up the human that is presenting themselves in a troubled state, looking for advice. Because we have such a massive focus on the trust in Allah part that we don't focus enough on understanding the nature of the camel that we need to tie, so to speak. And it's that second part, which is actually the first part of the hadith, of tying your camel. That's the part we need more emphasis on, more understanding of. And one of the difficulties, I think, that why we've arrived at this point is because mental health in itself has been positioned very strongly as something that is secular in nature, because all the training, the mainstream approaches to it have all been informed by secular thinking. And the problem with that is that the secular approach denounces the presence of the soul, right? And as a Muslim, we understand that there is a very, very critical and indivisible presence between the body and the soul, and our the way we show up as Muslims. So if anything, I think we need to have much more healthy engagement with the ulama from a perspective of understanding the mental health dynamics that I play in the kind of scenarios that they're trying to mediate or assist with. Because it's once we start getting that fuller picture that we'll start seeing the character of the sunnah come out in the rituals and the advice that they're giving, rather than just looking at the rituals and the steps that need to be taken. Because that's where we seem to have the disconnect. We have the disconnect between this is what you must do versus let me understand why it is that even though you know this is what you must do, why is it that you're finding it difficult to do it? And that second part, that part we don't get enough attention to at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. And you recently started a platform on YouTube which will allow for discussions such as this here to take place. Quickly tell us about that because we don't have much time on our hands. Amina?
Okay, so we've started a Facebook platform. The Facebook page is called Conversations with Muslim Women. And it's exactly that. Just come and share your experiences. We're not debating authenticities of hadith. We're not debating those things. All we're saying is you are a Muslim woman. You've had an experience, good or bad. Come onto the platform and share it. For example, the depression, if I can just echo something very quickly, when people keep on saying, just make dua, and they're not attending to the other part, then the more I make dua and I don't change, it then erodes my iman. Because then I think, but I'm making so much dua and I'm not getting better. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, And then women get shy because then they say, well, if it's not working, it's because my iman is weak, So on the platform, Conversations with Muslim Women, please join our group, start having these discussions so that we can start bringing to awareness all of these underlying things that are supposedly taboo to discuss, or people just say, nobody will understand. We understand. Come and have a chat with us. We understand.
Mm-hmm. And Zaid?
Yes, absolutely. To add to that, the focus is very much on creating understanding, because everyone knows they must eat healthy, right? But yet we don't. Everyone knows they need to keep fit and maintain good health, and yet we don't. So the question is not about whether we know what's right and wrong. It's not about rights and responsibilities and emphasizing who is expected to do what. It's about understanding why it is that despite knowing what we need to do to have the life that we desire, or to have the standing as a Muslim and present ourselves in Allah's court in a specific way, despite knowing everything that's needed for that, why is it that we still find it difficult to do that? And that answer lies in understanding what is the human experience that got you to this point in your life. And if you're going to completely negate your understanding of that, you're going to constantly struggle between judging yourself for not being good enough versus giving in to doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing because you just gave up hope of getting it right.
Mm-hmm. And well, there's no one easy fix to something like this here, and no one needs to do this alone. So, if anyone requires any assistance, please join the conversations with Muslim women on Facebook. And I think we should start talking about these topics. We should start having these conversations because we can't deny the fact that they are happening in our communities, and they have been happening. It's just that now we are more. I can't say we are more comfortable, but we are getting there. We are opening the spaces and allowing for such conversations to take place. And we have children. We have children that are growing up. Zaid, you mentioned you have a teenager and a daughter in the 20s. So they also need to know about mental health, mental illness, and where they can go to and who they can talk to besides just the religious scholar who will tell you to just go and make dhikr and a fast and etc. etc. And you do all of these things, and for how much longer are you going to be doing the dhikr and the fasting and not seeing change? You need to see change within yourself even when you do the dhikr. And it's not just about the dhikr. Your connection is not just with Allah, but it's also with the surroundings, with with nature itself.
Absolutely.
All right, so we don't have much time on our hands. So quickly, contact details. If anyone would like to contact you, how can they get through? Zaid.
I've got a website called zaidismail.com, and I've also got a WhatsApp that's focused on responding to these kinds of requests, which is 083 6599 and also on social media. So Instagram, Facebook, just look us up and inshallah you'll be able to connect with us on that.
All right. And Amina?
Okay, so my WhatsApp is 083 289 4057. And, feel free to reach out via Conversations with Muslim Women as well. We will also respond there.
All right. So shukran so much for your time to the both of you and for addressing this. I hope that we can take it further and continue talking about it. Have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah khair.
Amina Mohamed and Zaid Ismail, life coaches, and taking us through understanding mental health in the Muslim community. Well, these are conversations that we need to have more often, not just on a single platform like Salam Media and wherever else, Facebook, but on a let's make it part of our high teas. Let's make it part of our khutbahs and the masjids. Let's make it part of our daily discussions because these are things that are happening in our communities, and there's no point in brushing it under the carpet and pretending that it does not exist. You can share your comments or questions regarding this topic in our comment sections, or you can send them to us on WhatsApp on 0617660355. Do stay with us. We will be right back.